welcome back to Good News, Bad News, where we are wrapping up our celebrations for the 4th and 5th of July, because, of course, we celebrated 2 days this year because it's a Monday, and, you know, we have to have that federal day off on a weekday because, you know, God says somewhere. This is the Libertarian Christian Roundtable. We expose you to extremist ideas like individual liberty, personal responsibility, and, you know, that good
and
old
other
analysis.
novel thoughts.
And other novel thoughts. And good old-fashioned analysis from a Christian perspective of the news and events, and, of course, a libertarian perspective. Joining me is Norman, Carrie, and Matthew, as always. Thank you, Matthew, for your...
You're welcome.
For the decor that you bring to us.
I bring the festivities. That's all I bring.
So have any of you been accused of being an extremist?
Today?
Well, since Facebook's been labeling us.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if they were labeling me or other people. I got two of those little notices.
I didn't get any. I feel really left out. Did you get any, Norm?
I, can't say that I've been on Facebook enough to really garner that label at the moment.
Gotcha.
But,
So it's the warning label lately. We're recording this in the week of July 4th. That apparently Facebook is warning people if they've been exposed to extremist views.
Yeah.
And what I love about this is that all of my friends, not all of them, some of my friends on Facebook are kind of like, yeah, that's me, man. Like, what are you warning me for? And it's become this like joke. It's a running joke where people just kind of realize that Facebook is doing a poor job of managing the kind of content, or it's just clear the direction their biases run. So it's just an indication that the trust in Facebook is falling quite significantly. And I think it's I don't know. We'll see where the tide changes and how it goes. But yeah, in the meantime,
I'm waiting for
you.
Carrie Fisher to come back from the dead and say, "Help us, Mark Zuckerberg. You're our only hope."
Don't tempt her.
He'll appear as a hologram. Yeah.
So while we're celebrating our status as extremists, even though Facebook hasn't labeled us that directly that we know of, I mean, because you can't really know, so we're gonna celebrate. How did your church celebrate 4th of July? Because it was on a Sunday, so there was like this opportunity for churches to sort of deal with what the day was about. My church, they mentioned it, said, aren't we glad we live in a country where we can worship freely? We clapped, and we moved on and sang normal worship songs that had nothing to do with 4th of July or America. So that was, I'm all right, fine. Just because we can be thankful doesn't mean that it's not, it's not like we're the only free country in the world, but we can still be thankful that we have those freedoms. So that's cool. How about you guys?
I'm sorry. Take it a second. We're not the only free country in the world?
Correct. That's correct.
I don't know.
We're the #1 free country. Does that help you?
Thank you.
All right, there you go.
Woo!
Yeah, I think my pastor only mentioned it in passing to say that we don't have our freedom because of our government.
That's extremist and blasphemous.
Interesting.
Yes. Blasphemous to the state, I should say.
Somewhat Mayhewian. And if you don't know who John Mayhew is, see me after church.
Well, it's interesting that you guys note these particular, we'll call them exhibitions or statements regarding freedom and the state and whatnot on July 4th, because we definitely have other evidence in, other popular Christian publications suggesting that this is consistent with what's being kind of put out there. And so I wanted to share a few articles with you guys that might be of interest. So I'm going to share my screen here and note that in Christianity Today on June 28th, we have an interesting little headline here that America's true freedom is getting to sing about God, not country. And you look at this and you're like, cool, okay, yeah. Worship leaders are trying to focus devotion on in Christ alone. Yeah, and this seems like, okay, this is solid. I can get behind this and whatnot.
Why is that little American flag have arms and legs?
Well, good. Good
I was
question.
gonna say you get behind this like that girl is behind that, or boy, I don't know, behind that American flag.
It's a good
The
question.
frock of the lady next to her.
You know, and to be fair, like this is a pretty, this is a kind of decent article here that was goes through a number of different elements. And then I saw this, I was like, whoa, okay, this is interesting. Patriotic music is propaganda, but so is worship music in a way, and that's not incorrect. It's in many respects, I think it's important to realize that the music that we sing is like portable theology, and often the theology that we do carry with us is often more contained even in our music than it is in the sermons that we hear. Think about the last time you remembered in detail a sermon that you heard on a Sunday morning, and then try to remember all the music that you sung. You'll find out quickly that the music is really important. But then I saw this, and I was like, "What?"
So that must be from a competing service that bought time and space on the internet, right? Right, Norm?
It might be. So I followed this link, and I have this one ready
On
up
the
here.
click hole.
Wait,
Wait a second. Hold on. Wait a second.
Algorithm fail.
Does that say CT at the top?
This is also Christianity
Did you
Today.
check the URL to make sure it's not a spoof site?
I checked that. It's clearly the right URL.
Let's
Did you
check
check
those dates.
Snopes? Did you check Snopes? Snopes could clear this up for us real quick.
No.
Hold on.
Save us, Mark Zuckerberg.
Yes. But I was curious because, what about making worship patriotic again? And apparently we needed a top 10 4th of July service song list. And then
Who is president at this time?
So I noted when I clicked through this link, I realized, hey, this is interesting. It's June 29th, 2018. Oh, look at the line here.
It's not the same author, is it?
I don't believe so. No, let's double check. Nope.
No.
Good. They both
Definitely
Kate
start
and
with
Kelsey
K.
need to get together.
Yeah.
Kate
But
and Kelsey.
nonetheless, look at this
Time for a tea
other
party.
line here. Look at America's favorite God and country tunes, from Revolutionary War anthems to a Trump-inspired.
Oh my word!
Oh my word!
So I just think it's interesting when you kind of go through
Here's the
this.
thing that I'm most offended about. It's not that there's a Trump-inspired musical number. It's that we would have show tunes in church.
It's remarkable. I mean, even that Trump-inspired musical number didn't technically make their top 10 here when you look at it. Nonetheless, here's what's interesting. There are some pieces, like lines in this, if you scroll down and read through the whole thing, that are, perhaps a little more balanced in the way in which it's presented as, about patriotism and worship and whatnot. But I think it's an interesting contrast to consider that this year we got this. That it's about singing about God, not country. But in 2018, we had this. And in 2017, we had this, which was yet another. Now this, to be fair, this article is not terrible. Okay. But we have another headline here where you have God's blessing to say, God bless America. And faith that transcends all nations leaves room for patriotic devotion.
Devotion.
Wow. The verbiage here is not to be ignored. And I think that it's just important to realize that perhaps the fair weatherness of all of these sorts of things is for real. I'd encourage Christians to really consider, imagine if their favorite candidate had won this year, or let's say in 2020, and instead of having a President Biden, we had a President Trump again. Would this have been the headline this year?
I'm just going to suggest that Christians these days give more of their tithe money to discernment ministries.
or maybe they should tithe some of their time in order to get some discernment back.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really the ultimate issue here, is that we as Christians often lose a little bit of discernment in order to serve the state. And that is a problem. I would, look, I mean, this is why LCI exists, right? That we have a mission to try and persuade people against this way of thinking. And that if there's anything we can do to improve the level of just conversation about the role of the state in public life, in Christian life in particular, then that's something that we need to be doing. And and I've used that type of language for a long time, that if we can just improve this conversation, guess what? Worship is part of that conversation. And when worship ends up reflecting in even if it's one service a year, it reflects more about our love of the state than the love of God, then we got a problem. Because you know, there's at least one passage that I can recall very easily about, you know, not everyone who says Lord, Lord will enter the kingdom of heaven, right? And and I think this is part of it. So let's just be mindful of these things. I'm not going to say I don't think CT is a bad organization, and I don't think Christians who make this mistake are necessarily just, you know, well, they're on the highway to hell and that's it. But I think we do need to be more discerning. I think we do need to watch out for our language, and I think we do need to be careful about the way in which we reverence the state on days such as July 4th on a Sunday. So
I would just say, if you were to look at those articles again, take a look at that second church, because they had lasers and fireworks, and that's what worshiping the Lord's all about.
I'll throw out one other thing that part of what has motivated me across the, you know, these recent years, and I think it's interesting, is, you know, as many of our listeners and readers will know, I grew up in the Churches of Christ. The Churches of Christ historically have been very sparse in the types of things that they would even implement in a service, that being like a you know, even artwork, or especially flags. I have never seen a American flag in a Church of Christ. It just doesn't happen. That is considered, I mean, we're already could be considered and so could be accused of being kind of iconoclastic at times, and wrongly so per se. But if you think we're you know, even moderately iconoclastic on religious imagery, just imagine what it means about flags. That doesn't happen in the Churches of Christ. So in a sense, I've been kind of inoculated against this. This really sickens me when I see this sort of stuff, and I've been very resistant every time it's been even proffered as an option.
And I wonder if churches even realize that the way the American flag is said to be set up in that venue, the American flag is supposed to be given a place of prominence.
Yeah,
that's the word that's used in the flag code or whatever it's called. It's supposed to be given a place of prominence, and I'm like, in a church, it's given a place of prominence? Really?
How is that?
And you guys are okay with this?
Well, it goes back to a little bit of what my pastor said this weekend, and this has been a series that we've been talking about, is that, are you an American who is a Christian, or are you a Christian who is an American? And something that we should all probably wrestle with at some point.
Yeah.
So just be on the lookout for things like that. And, you know, I'm not saying we should, you know, go to war over it per se right now, but I think
cancel them.
I believe in the NAP anyway, so I can't go to war.
It is a great opportunity to talk with people.
Yeah.
So if you do see that that this stuff happens, talk to people about it, and try to, you know, draw out of them what it is that's important about that to them, and see it, because it'll often be revealing, and sometimes they'll be able to catch themselves on it, I think.
You know what's a good place to talk with people about things?
Coffee shops.
I was gonna say something a little bit more related to the weekend events, and
the
just
sewers.
say that when you have a barbecue,
Oh.
or a picnic, because lately, Matthew,
that's got to be
did you
cheaper,
notice,
right?
It's getting cheaper.
Is it?
To have a party? Yes.
What?
Yeah.
Let me just bring these out again. Whoa! All righty.
So the Biden economy is apparently saving us lots of money if we eat lots of hot dogs. Sorry, I can't say this with a straight
Works
face.
like that, Doug.
I can't say this with a straight face, and Matthew's going to pull up a screenshot and explain why I can't even get this through with a straight face.
Well, let me just help you. The Biden economy is so roaring. Let me just share this with you here. Highest gas prices of 2021 cast shadow over holiday weekend. Oh, wait a second. That's not right. Hold on. Wait, here we go. Right? Here we go. All right. Planning a cookout this year? no! Catch up on the news! According to the Farm Bureau, the cost of a 4th of July barbecue is down from last year. It's a fact you mustard. Hot dog. The Biden economic plan is working, and that's something we can all relish. Thank you, Farm Bureau and Biden. Thank you. 16 cents down from last year. Thank you. Thank you. That was wonderful. Hey, you look at statistics like that and say, we're off to a good spot.
I know.
How did this get back up here? How did?
Because it's important.
Shoot, Doug, I can't get this down. Highest gas price from
gas
ABC
prices
News.
Or your screenshot.
Gosh, I can't. Okay, all right, I got it. There we go. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened there. The economic boon must have gone so big that my computer can't contain all the good news. It just keeps showing the strange bad news that came out the day before the Biden administration. Oh my goodness gracious, it's going again. Gas prices rising across the my goodness gracious. There we go. We'll stop that.
You must heard about the gas prices.
And to think what's baffling about this is that like they deliberately chose to make the puns.
Oh, they did
about it.
They did. They went all in for it.
I don't
catch up on the news.
I mean, this is also the same administration that like 6 months ago that said, well, if you just shut up and do what we tell you, then maybe you can celebrate with your family on July 4th.
Yeah.
Like
the same administration that said that
mission accomplished, baby.
The same administration that said that we would need F-15s and nukes in order to stand up to our government.
I mean, all we need to do is stand up to our government is just have overpriced hot dogs.
Well, yeah, it's a fair point.
I mean,
what if the answer to all of our problems is just to raise the price of gasoline enough that the government can't operate?
Don't give them any ideas.
Don't give them any ideas, right?
They'll just keep printing money.
Yeah. That'll make it all better.
So
anyhow, yes, we got this grand economic news from the Farm Bureau that prices are down, supposedly, to those magic numbers. But I will say, according to my grocery budget, it is not the case. Now, I am fatter this year than I was last year, but that shouldn't say anything. Strangely enough, 16% more than last year. It's just an economic.
So basically, you can save on a barbecue if you are hosting, but if you want to get to a barbecue, it's going to cost you more.
Yes. You ate up that 16 cents in the first half mile.
Not everybody in the world.
Was this a hidden strategy to keep everybody home because of COVID?
Ooh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, let's not go. You know what? That's extremist content, Carrie Baldwin.
That's quite
conspiratorial
there.
I know.
Yeah. So let's get out of the America looking at itself, and we're talking about our own country, and think about like what else is going on in the world.
Pondering the American
Carrie, you're a
navel.
resident feminist. How are the Olympics ruining women's lives?
Oh my gosh! Let me tell you.
Well, Carrie's a woman.
Oh,
this whole time I've been calling him Doug.
Matthew,
oh no, wait! I'm sorry,
Matthew.
I'm getting you.
It's been great having you with us.
We're gonna have.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. So actually, there's 3 stories about the Olympics and women athletes. The first is the one that you guys have probably heard, which is about Sha'Carri Richardson, who is the fastest woman in America. Was disqualified from her event because she popped positive for cannabis. And actually, as it turns out, she took the cannabis in order to help her cope with the sudden death of her biological mother. Now,
she was like distributing and growing and had a multi-billion-dollar company that was distributing illegal pot, right?
No, she's the fastest woman in America who experienced the sudden death of her biological mother while qualifying for the Olympics.
And she got kicked out of the Olympics
and she was
Because of that,
disqualified because she popped positive for THC. The second story that you probably haven't heard about is that two Nambian female athletes who had to go through drug testing and all of that popped positive or scored too high for testosterone. And they're women who are biologically just these two women just biologically have naturally higher testosterone than the medical bureaucracies will permit. And so they were disqualified. The third story that you may or may not have heard about is a transgender weightlifter. That is a man experiencing gender dysphoria and posing as a woman, was qualified for women's weightlifting. So those are the three stories about the Olympics and the really weird rules that they have. You cannot be a woman who's fastest woman in America. By the way, the marijuana isn't like performance enhancing drugs.
I don't understand that at all.
If anything, it's her handicap. Like if she wasn't, if she wasn't on cannabis, she would have really smoked you.
I remember all the time Usain Bolt was like, hold on one second, I'm going to run this race, but just one second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go now.
There we go.
And women who have naturally high testosterone are disqualified, while transgender women who obviously have more testosterone, they're cool. They're totally cool. And I just want to say, because I've heard some pushback from libertarians who are like, well, you know, this is a private organization. They can make whatever rules they want. Number one, the marijuana rule probably would not exist if it weren't for the fact that marijuana is criminalized in most of the world. And number two, the testosterone rule wouldn't exist if it weren't for medical bureaucracies making these ridiculous standards. So it doesn't make sense that two female athletes who just happen to be naturally higher in testosterone don't get to compete when the transgender woman, the man experiencing gender dysphoria, gets to participate and compete as a woman.
It's a very strange series of events here.
Lemony Snicket should write a story about it.
Yeah. Okay. All right, that's an obscure reference.
I'm just saying.
Seriously.
But
a series of unfortunate events.
Does it make sense? I mean, I'm kind of off the cuff here making a comment, but does it make sense if like we're going to have to start accepting these sorts of things alongside men and women in general? Maybe do we need like a new category in the Olympics just for trans people? Would that be better at this point?
Well, I don't know. I've kind of wondered if maybe there should be, you know, if women want to compete against men, why don't they allow that?
You just compress it all into one then.
Right. I don't know exactly what the solution is, but at some point, like, we don't have, as far as I know, we don't have women experiencing gender dysphoria who are competing with the men. We don't have that.
Yeah.
So it is a little odd, I think. And by the way, Caitlyn Jenner, who's transgender, has actually come out, formerly Bruce Jenner, also an athlete.
Of Wheaties fame, right?
Yeah, also an Olympiad, has come out saying, no, this is not fair that transgender women get to compete in women's competitions, because they still carry biological traits of men, one of which is that they
higher
tend to
testosterone
be
levels,
higher testosterone and you know, that sort of thing. So it gives them
I just have to go inform the
advantage.
patriarchy. I just have to go and let the patriarchy know that we're winning, because when you come to female sports, if you really want to win, you got to send in a man.
That's right.
Oh my gosh.
No. On the other hand, if you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah.
And that's our show with extremist content, everybody. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh.
No.
Well, here's
really.
an extreme idea. I was thinking, you know, what we could do is what most people have suggested with the whole like men's and women's restrooms, where we just have single restrooms. We should just have sports where they don't compete against each other. They just compete against their old times. Because everybody would love to do that. And the Olympics would succeed so much if we just made it all about everyone and their self-improvement. Although that's probably a racist
Well,
idea.
you know, that's a very stoic thing to say. It's actually, I think, a Marcus Aurelius sort of thing right there. Is that, you know, why compare yourself to someone else when you should be comparing yourself to who you were yesterday?
I think
that's what our society is like, Norm. We want to compare ourselves to other people.
I think that's a great idea, Doug. And I think we should also start an all-female basketball league.
Oh.
But Norm,
when you say we,
point,
you mean you and me, or
no? Like we should just start.
Just generally
because it doesn't right now.
Yeah,
because it doesn't.
Doug, to your point though, Sha'Carri Richardson will not have the opportunity to see just how fast she is when she's not on cannabis.
Well,
that's a fair point.
You were robbed, Sha'Carri. You were robbed.
Totally robbed.
Yeah.
Remarkable.
So I guess we're going to end on the bad news, because we started off with a lot of sarcasm and warnings of extremist views, and we're going to end on some like negative, like, hey, you know, it's
positive
such a shame.
Economic news, Doug.
It's such a that's true. We had positive economic news, except for all of your gas, Matt. Your gas pictures.
Sorry, my flag is getting in your way.
Yeah, we're going to wrap this up. Thanks for joining us. Read more of our content on Libertarian Christians, if you dare. LibertarianChristians.com, or look us up on the Libertarian Christian Podcast. All right, Matt, put them down. See you next time, everybody.